What are the factors that will shift the supply curve? We call it non-price factors that shift the supply curve. Why do we use the word non-price? Because any other factor except than the price of this product would result in shifting the supply curve. For example, an example of a factor that will shift supply curve is technology. Either we have better technology or less technology. Therefore, if we have better technology, it means that we'll be more efficient, consequently will increase our supply. If we have less technology or lack of technology, it means that we'll be less efficient, consequently supply will be lower. So anytime we have higher supply, it means supply curve shifts to the right. Lower supply, it means supply curve shifts to the left. So let's draw it. Higher technology, it means higher supply. Lower technology, it means lower supply. This is our y-axis, which is the price. This is our x-axis, which is the quantity. This is our upward supply curve. I'll choose any price level and get the quantity supplied one. Because we have higher supply, our supply curve will shift to the right. This will be our S2. At the same price level, we will have higher quantity supplied, Q2. So for lower technology, I will have our y-axis, which is the price, our x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve. I will choose any price level, and this will give us quantity supplied 1, and then we're gonna shift supply curve to the left at S2. For the same price level, we will have a lower quantity supplied. Another factor that will shift supply curve is input prices, which is the cost of production. So either we have a lower cost of production or higher cost of production. Lower cost of production, it means that we will have higher supply because now we have a motive to produce more because our cost of production or input prices is lower. If we have higher input prices or higher cost of production, it would result in lower supply. Let's draw it. Here we have lower input prices, it means higher supply. And the other scenario is higher input prices, it means lower supply. This is our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve. We choose any price level, and this will give us quantity supplied 1, and then we'll shift supply curve to the right at S2. For the same price, we have a higher quantity supplied. Then, for higher input prices, I will draw our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve, S1, and then choose any price level, and this will give us the quantity, and then we will shift supply curve to the left at S2. So at the same price level, we will have a lower quantity supplied, which is Q2. Another factor that will shift supply curve is natural disasters. Let's assume that if we started to have any natural disaster, such as earthquake or drought. So, if we have a natural disaster, this is our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis quantity, and our upward slope supply curve. We choose any price level. It will give us our price and the quantity supplied 1. Then we're going to shift supply curve to the left. Why? Because we have destruction, therefore our supply will be lower. Therefore, at S2, using the same price level, it will give us a lower quantity. Another factor that will shift supply curve is alternative use of resources. What do you mean by alternative use of resources? It means that for the same machine, for example, I can use it to produce 2 different products. Therefore, let's get an example. Let's assume that I have a machine that I could use it to produce either iWatch or iMac. What will happen if the price of iWatch goes up? It means that we will produce more of iWatch, so the quantity supplied will be higher. So this means that it's a movement. Why? Because we have a change in quantity supplied. Therefore, if we're going to produce more of iWatch using the machine, this means that I will have less machines to produce iMac. Therefore, the supply of iMac will be lower. Consequently, this is a shift. Why? Because we have a change in supply. Let's draw it. This is our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve. It choose any price level, and this will give us quantity supplied 1, and this will be point A. If we have higher price, so this means that we'll choose any higher price, we'll move horizontally till we intersect with the supply curve, and then we go down till we get our quantity supplied 2. Therefore, we moved from point A to point B on the same supply curve. That's why we call it a movement. What about IMAC? This is our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity. This is our upward supply curve, S1. Then we choose any price level, and this will give us quantity supplied. Then we're going to shift supply curve to the left at S2. At the same price level, we have a lower quantity supplied. So this means that every time we have an alternative use of resources, we have a negative relationship between the price of one good and the supply of another good. It means that if the price of one good goes up and the supply of the other good goes down, or if the price of one good goes down and the supply of the other good goes up, they move in inverse relationship. It means that here we have an alternative use of resources. Another factor that will shift supply curve is joint supply. So what do I mean by joint supply? It means that if I produce one good, I have to produce another good at the same time. So an example of joint supply is lamp and wool. Every time you'd like to have more lamp, it means that you need to have more wool as well. So what will happen if the price of lamp goes up? We will have higher quantity supply of lamp. Consequently, it will be a movement. Why? Because I move from one point to another on the same supply curve. Consequently, we have changing quantity supplied. So if we're gonna have higher quantity supplied of lamp, it means that we're gonna have more wool. So the supply of wool will increase. This is a shift because we have a change in supply. So let's draw it. This is our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve. I'll choose any price level, and this will give us quantity supply at 1. Then I'll choose a higher price. This will give us move horizontally till we intersect with supply curve, and then we move vertically to get quantity supply 2. So I moved from point A to point B on the same supply curve. That's why we call it a movement. So for wool, we have our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve. You choose any price level and get quantity supplied 1, then shift supply curve to the right at S2. At the same price, we will have a higher quantity supply 2. Therefore, what's the relationship between the price of lamp and the supply of wool? It's a positive relationship. So if I tell you that if we have a higher price of one product and higher supply of another product, or a lower price of one product and lower supply of another product, this means that these two goods are joint supply. I produce them together. Another factor that will shift supply curve is expectations. Either we have positive or negative expectations. Let's get an example. So if we have expectations of a lower future price, therefore, if you know that the future price will be lower, it's better that you sell more now. Or vice versa. If I have expectations of a higher future price, therefore, it's better to produce less now, sell less now, and sell more in the future. Let's draw it. This is our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve. You choose any price level and get quantity supplied 1. And then, if we have expectations of a lower future price, we will have higher supply. Higher supply means shift to the right. So it will shift to the right at S2. At the same price level, we will have higher quantity supplied. Then let's draw our upward supply curve here. You choose any price level. It will give you quantity supplied 1. And then if we have expectations of a higher future price, it means that supply will be lower. Consequently, supply will shift to the left. So we're going to shift supply curve to the left at S2. At the same price level, we will have lower quantity supplied at Q2. Another example that will shift supply curve is number of sellers. Either we have higher or lower. If we have higher number of sellers, it means that supply will increase. If we have lower number of sellers, it means supply will be lower. So higher number of sellers, it means higher supply. Lower number of sellers, it means lower supply. Let's draw it. Our y-axis, which is B, our x-axis, which is Q, our upward supply curve, it choose any price level to get price and the quantity supplied, and then because of higher supply, we will shift supply curve to the right at S2, and then at the same price level, we will have a higher quantity supplied too. Then, what about lower number of sellers? It means that we have a lower supply. If we have a lower supply, we're going to shift supply curve to the left. So let's first get any price level and the quantity supplied 1, and then shift supply curve to the left. So here at the same price level we will have a lower quantity supplied at Q2. Another factor that will shift supply curve is taxes. Either we have higher or lower taxes. Lower taxes, it means that companies has a motive to produce more, so supply will be higher. Higher taxes, companies will be reluctant to produce, so supply will be lower. So here we have lower taxes, it means higher supply. Higher taxes, it means lower supply. This is our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis the quantity, our upward supply curve. Choose any price level to get the price and the quantity supplied. And then higher supply, it means shift to the right. So supply curve shift to the right at S2. At the same price level, we will get higher quantity supplied. With higher taxes, it would result in lower supply. So let's get any price level here, and this is our quantity supplied. Shift supply curve to the left. So at the same price level, we will have lower quantity supplied. Another factor that will shift supply curve is subsidy. Either we have higher or lower subsidy. Higher subsidy will increase supply, lower subsidy will decrease supply. So higher subsidy is higher supply, lower subsidy it means lower supply. Our y-axis, which is the price, x-axis, which is the quantity, our upward supply curve, it chooses any price level, and at this price level we have quantity supplied 1. Shift supply curve to the right. At the same price level we will have higher quantity supplied at quantity supplied 2. Then it choose any price level here, and this will give you quantity supplied 1, and then shift supply curve to the left. At the same price level we'll have lower quantity supplied.